All right, guys, so at long last, the S23 line has been fully unveiled. We're going to take a look at pretty much everything there is to know about them, everything that we possibly can know about them right now. Let's start off, though, by jumping over to the Samsung website. As you should probably expect, there are links to these things in the description down below that are affiliate links if you purchase through them. Not only will you get some accessory money thrown in to sweeten the pot, I will also get a little bit of commission, is the word I'm looking for having done that. Here we are, S23 and S23 Plus. Now, I'm going to use these two imagery-wise pretty much interchangeably because they look identical. One is just a little bit larger than the other. And don't worry, we're going to look at a full spec table to show all this stuff. But for now, let's just take a look at the colors that we have to look at. And I should also mention, while I'm talking about the colors, the prices of these two. So the S23 standard is going to start off at $800. The S23 Plus is about $1,000. So like I said, let's look at these colors here. So we have a nice green color, which their banner is cutting half of off because, you know, why wouldn't it? Phantom black, lavender, and cream, which I think, honestly, of these, lavender's okay. Probably be going black if those are the options that I have. You can see the new camera bump layout is much more like the S23 Ultra that we have had for the last couple of years. If we jump over to the S23 Ultra, which does start at $1,200, we basically gotten rid of the 128 gig version. So that's why that price looks like it has in fact gone up a little bit. We have some more colors to choose between: green, phantom black, lavender, and cream. There were, when I was looking at it a moment ago, there were some special option colors. Perhaps they are already sold out, but these were the ones we had before. There was a blue, a green, a red, and a black. Maybe they're already gone. I don't know. Now, as you can tell here, not a lot has changed from a visual perspective on these devices, in particular with the S23 Ultra maintaining a very, very similar appearance to what we had before. The Plus and the standard versions are getting a pretty big modification to the camera bump setup, but other than that, they do look very, very similar to the devices that we had last year. And honestly, when it comes to the S23 and the S23 Plus, other than getting, you know, look, it is a new processor, which is good, and it is apparently an all-new set of cameras, which are going to have very similar specs to last year, but apparently they are updated in some way, at least from what I have read. They are not representing a very large upgrade year over year. Now, I do have, like I mentioned, a full specification table here, which I will pull up on screen. And if you want to pause and read any of this, you can. But this is pretty much what we have here. 6.1-inch screen, 6.6-inch screen for the Plus, 6.8-inch screen for the Ultra, 50 megapixel wide, 10 megapixel 3x tele for the standard, and the S23 Plus, 12 megapixel ultra wide as well for those two. I don't know why I skipped that. For the Ultra, we have a 200 megapixel wide angle lens. That is just a ridiculous number to have attached to a phone camera. We have a 10 megapixel 3x, 10 megapixel 10x, and a 12 megapixel ultra wide. When it comes to the selfie images, this is a little bit strange. We've dropped from a 12 megapixel down to a 10, which you might think is going to be like a downgrade, but apparently, from what I've seen from some people online, this 10 megapixel selfie camera might actually be delivering better shots than what we had before. The Ultra does keep a 12 megapixel camera though. As far as overall camera performance, I'm seeing some kind of mixed opinions. I've seen some people that have already got their hands on these things saying that they are still seeing that trademarked Samsung shutter lag. Other people are saying that it is a little bit faster than before. So we're going to have to wait and get our hands on these things and see how bad this shutter lag actually is. I've never thought it was a massive, massive problem, but yes, it is sometimes a little bit annoying. Now, on the Ultra model, we do have some improvements to optical image stabilization. Basically, that sensor, that lens, can move around to counteract the movement of your hand. It can apparently now move twice as far as before, and results I've seen from that seem to be quite promising, so that is good to see. We can also now film 8K at 30 FPS. You're able to use the full sensor now, so the output on that should be quite a bit better than it was before. Moving along to storage, the only one that can have a 128 gig storage option now is the S23. The other twos are bumped up to 256 standard, 8 gigs of RAM for both except for the Ultra version. Batteries, 3900 milliamp hour, charging at 25 watts. The Plus is now 4700 milliamp hours, but it is charging at 45 watts, which is a nice improvement. The Ultra is 5,000 milliamp hours, still charging at 45 watts. Of course, they are all running the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, the new fastest processor on the market. You may have noticed in their marketing that it often says for Samsung. What exactly this means is not completely clear just yet. It may just be simply running at a slightly higher boost clock. We're not totally sure on that just yet, though. I do want to point out that, I talked about how these things don't look very different. Well, the Ultra model is apparently slightly more boxy than it was before, which might make it a bit easier to hold in the hand. These devices are also now being upgraded to use Corning Gorilla Glass Victus 2, which was Victus Plus before, so this should be even more drop resistant. I've also been seeing that the speakers are apparently upgraded a little bit. For a long time, Samsung kind of had the best speakers, and now they've kind of dropped a little bit. Speakers in the Fold phones are phenomenal. So apparently these have finally been upgraded a little bit as well. And one last note here on the super res zoom on the S23 Ultra. Mr. Who's the Boss, that YouTube channel, has a video out, and they talked about how zooming way in, his S22 Ultra actually was taking sharper looking photos until they took a photo of a person's face, and then the S23 was miles ahead of it. So there's a lot of AI stuff apparently going on, seeing a face and doing some tuning that way. So it's going to be really interesting to see overall how that zoom performance looks compared to what we've already had. So yeah, guys, I mentioned it was running One UI 5.1. I'm going to drop a video in the description where I talk about the features of One UI 5.1. We talked about that days before these phones were even announced, and that information is still very relevant. So go check that out if you want to see more. Like I said, links to these phones are in the description. We're going to have more coverage of these things as it is necessary to do so. I might be getting the S23 Ultra to be able to cover here on the channel. Please let me know if that's something that you want to see, because if it's not, I don't want to spend $1,300 if I don't need to. So please let me know, guys. Hit that subscribe button before you leave. I'll see you on the next one. And until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.